Last week, on September 19th, Zorin OS Beta was released. Let's just go over the page and see what some of the new features that we have this time around. I don't expect to see a lot of changes. Zorin OS is usually they're known for they're known to be an LTS release distribution. So we're expecting to see very subtle changes, small changes to improve the distro, but nothing radical because after all, they are an LTS distro. So we don't want to see a lot of changes. We want to maintain what works, improve a little bit on what works good, and get rid of the bad stuff, but don't drastically change the desktop experience for new users. So let's just have a look at and see what are some of the new changes, some of the new implementations with Zorin OS 18. So what's new? Let's see right here what's going on. Well, let's read this real quick. The improvements in Zorin OS 18 make the transition from Windows easier than ever, offering a familiar and intuitive experience for Windows users while unlocking the full potential of your existing computer. Zorin OS is known, and I'm pretty sure their main goal is to take the market from users that are coming from Windows and even some macOS users. That is their goal, right? They created this distribution to make the transition coming over from Windows to Linux to be a very easy and uncomplicated experience. And they've succeeded in doing that. I wasn't a user before 16. I started using Zorin OS at 16, and I'm surprised I didn't know about them before. I was very impressed with how Zorin OS 16 worked. Almost no bugs. Everything just worked out of the box. It's a similar experience to what you would find in Ubuntu, obviously, maybe Mint, but improved to be very simple for someone who's very new to Linux. Anyways, let's just go ahead and see what some of the new stuff they have going on. Stunning new look. If you take a look at their desktop, it has been slightly changed. They haven't changed it a lot, but they did add some refinements. If we take a look at their previous, the way that desktop looked before, we can see here that there are some changes to the application menu. There are some different tones and a little bit of accents to make it more visually pleasant, if you may. The font looks to be the same. Everything else looks to be the same, and just besides the application, the show all apps button. I think that's the only thing that's different. And over here, they also changed the way that the log out and power menu. But everything else besides that, obviously the menu bar is changed a little. They actually made it to have rounded corners and a floating bar. The previous version was, edge to edge and whatnot. But everything else seems to be the same. They moved the workspaces button. They used to have it next to the menu, to the application menu. Now it's on this side for whatever reason. Let's see what's the next thing. Advanced window tiling. They didn't have this before. They did have some tiling options. Let me see over here on their previous release. I never used tiling in the way they implemented. I'm pretty sure there you go. See, advanced Windows tiling. I never used it the way they implemented, but I'm sure people like it. I prefer the way that Pop OS does tiling. Their way of doing tiling, I like it. It's automatic, and it arranges everything. I don't know how it does it right, but I like the way that tiling is implemented. This way, I'm not really sure if I want to use this. I know some people have used for this type of tiling, but I really don't. So I actually probably end up turning it off. I don't want to have to see this pop up, and I don't know. It might come in handy. I know I do run some applications that I can use this for Windows setup, um, and maybe this one, right? Obviously, but I wish it did it automatically. Maybe I have to figure out and fiddle with it and see if I can get it to do everything automatically. Then I'll definitely use it because in Pop OS it's all automatic, and I really like how that's implemented. Moving on to the next thing. This is another new feature that they didn't have before. So now you have this thing called web apps, and you can actually use it to create sort of like a shortcut from a website to put it on your taskbar and run it as a native app, sort of, right? You're obviously not installing an application that's a exe file from Windows on Linux. You're going through the browser, and for example, in this case, it says you can use web apps such as Microsoft Office 365, Teams, Google Docs, Adobe Photoshop, right from your desktop. So what this does is, if I haven't played with it because I don't really use Windows apps, but I will have to give it a try later and see how this works. It helps you create basically a shortcut to put it on your taskbar so that when you click it, it'll run just like some sort of app. See, kind of like this. It'll just open up a little window, and it'll make it look like if you're running the app natively. So that's very cool. Integration to OneDrive, awesome. Moving on to something else, suggested apps. They already had this before, but apparently now there are more apps that support this option when you download an app from the internet in the exe format. You're obviously not able to run that on natively on Linux, but what Zorin does is a very cool thing. They let you know that your application is not supported on Linux, but they can provide you with either options to try to install it using their interface. Let me see if I can pull it up. You can either try to install their bottles and wine combo. This is what they call it, a Windows app support. This is something that the Zorin team has put together, but it's basically wine and bottles that try to run Windows application natively on Linux. But if it doesn't, or if it can't, they also give you the option to look for an application that's sort of like an alternative of what you need. Moving on to the next thing, they have implemented some new colors for the theming option. As you know, if you are familiar with Zorin, they have their own settings thing going on, which is called Zorin Appearance. In this application, with this application, you're able to change different aspects of the desktop. This is sort of like a tweaks slash extensions applications that are used in GNOME to customize your desktop, but they have their own implementation of it, right? You're able to change specific aspects to kind of manipulate the desktop to make it look different than vanilla GNOME. And some of the new colors they offer now is this yellow and this brown. So before they only had blue, green, orange, red, purple, and gray. Now they have this yellow and they have this brown. Personally, I like the yellow. I tried it. I'm trying it right now, and I like how that looks. It's a very nice subtle tone. It's not super intrusive, and I really like it. So that's a really cool implementation to the desktop. Moving on to something else, they have 3 new desktop layouts coming to Zorin OS. Something that's compact, which basically just shrinks your taskbar and changes the menu to look something like Windows 11. New Linux Mint-like layout for those who are coming from Mint or are used to using the Cinnamon desktop. You should be right at home with this one. And then they also have a new look, which is called Elementary OS. The layout was really cool. It's sort of like a Mac OS layout. So people coming from Mac will really relate to this sort of layout that they have going on. Those are the main things that they're implementing. Very subtle changes. There are a couple more things that they list over here. Better performance, of course. With the new use of the new kernel, Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. There's a lot of new things that Zorin OS 17 didn't have because it was so outdated already. I mean, the last release was, their initial release was 2023. Of course, that's gonna show some outdated software, right? But they have more stuff going on, better performance, search files everywhere now. The menu is improved, remote login with RDP, and a bunch of other stuff. Oh, this is a cool one. Now they have enhanced audio. They updated to Pipewire. That's definitely going to be something that will benefit the users in a very good way. Hardware support, obviously. One thing I have to say about that, it's with Zorin, I've never had issues running any of my hardware. Besides the only problem that I had one problem, but I had this problem with almost every other distro, which is running multiple monitors with different resolutions. As we all know, NVIDIA is really giving us a hard time running properly with Linux. I've tried Fedora, Mint, Ubuntu, CashOS, you name it. I've tried it all. Running multiple monitors with different resolutions is such a headache. And Zorin 17 actually had issues with that, but I'm pretty sure it's because obviously the outdated kernel and all that. And obviously the last thing, their main selling point, they are a long-term support distribution, so expect to get updates for at least 4 years, all the way to 2029. All of this cool stuff. I'm really happy with the changes, with the implementations. These are very, very subtle changes, and can't wait to try the new final release. If you want to try Zorin OS beta, just go to their website. They have the button to look at the release notes, and at the very bottom they have the link to download. As always, they have a warning. This is pre-release software, so back up all your information if you're gonna try it on your production machine, on your main machine. Obviously, you can run it on a VM, but if you're gonna test it on your main machine, make sure that you have some kind of backup, because with beta, you never know, and you might end up crashing your system, losing your files. Who knows, right? I have it installed on my main machine, but I happen to have a few hard drives in this laptop. So all my information, I guess, is sort of backed up to one of the main hard drives, and I also have a separate backup. But I wanted to try, Zorin properly. I'm gonna be using it for a couple weeks. If I don't have any problems, I'm just gonna continue using it until the final release is here. This is another cool feature about Zorin. Because they don't release alpha releases, we don't get an option to test it until beta. They do have this button right now that if you click it right here on the taskbar, you get sent to a link where you can send either suggest a feature or report an issue. This is really cool. They don't ask you for any personal information. You just have to send them, some feedback. And that's it for this video, guys. Thank you all for watching. If you have any comments, questions, write them down below. I'll get a chance to read them later and report back to y'all. Thanks.